I'd like to start off by asking you, what was the motivation behind your original proposal to the New India Foundation?
I think my main motivation was the fact that the story of Kashmiri Pandits who were exiled from Kashmir in 1989-90 had remained unsaid. Within the community, one kind of knew about it, but outside, when I would speak to my friends outside, a small circle, I found to my regret that not many people knew what had happened to us. Most of the information was based on a few pamphlets which a few right-wing organizations, Hindutva organizations had distributed among them or had talked among them in the turbulent 90s. So I felt that there is a need for a book which comes with a certain rigor of truth. Because within the community, since it has suffered so much, there was also a tendency in terms of rhetoric to exaggerate things a bit, like call it a genocide, etc., etc. Which may work for common people, but as a journalist, I know that if you want your story to reach out to people who matter the most, it has to bring that rigor in it. Since I was a journalist, and the essential of truth is of paramount importance to me, I felt that I should write that book. I was a little confused about the format, but I was very fortunate to have a wonderful editor in the form of Meru and Patrick French, the British historian who's sadly not with us now. They really encouraged me, and this book would not have been possible without the two of them.
And this topic is, of course, deeply personal to you. So how did the research process challenge any of your initial points, or you as a person?
I was 14 when the Exodus happened, and I'm an eyewitness to it. But the thing about memory is that memory can be quite slippery, right? Especially when you witness something as a 14-year-old young boy. I remembered a lot of things, but I also wanted to make sure that I remember them correctly. And I also felt, the common thread is my own story, but it's also part reportage, right? Where I have spoken to other families, other people who have gone through similar experiences. So it involved interviews with a number of people who have gone through the Exodus, etc. But even then, whatever I've said in the book is checked and rechecked many times. Checked it from multiple sources. I've used archival material. I've consulted newspaper reports of those times. Which the biggest surprise for me while doing this was how little had been written about it, even in national mainstream newspapers like the Times of India or the Hindustan Times. So that was really a shock. Most of the stories I read about the Exodus was in the aftermath of the Exodus. When say a refugee camp has been set up in Mumbai and a local reporter for the Times of India has gone and spoken to people there. But what actually happened to the community back in Kashmir Valley? I found to my extreme shock that very little was written about it in those days. And I think the reason for that is that like today and like in those times, journalists traditionally like to stick to a place where they'll get more juicy stories. Since the gun was in Kashmir where the conflict was, and Kashmir in that sense became what I quote unquote call the sexy insurgency, where every journalist worth his, her, or her salt like to go to. So the Kashmiri Pandit story stayed on the margins.
And what was the writing process like?
It was extremely difficult to. So I started writing this book somewhere in 2003, and it began with when I sat down with my maternal uncle, who is no longer with us, and he told me the story of the 1947 invasion. You know, the tribal attack when the tribesmen from the northwest frontier province attacked Kashmir when it used to be a princely state. So it really began from there. But I also knew that at some point in time, I also need to tell my story. And to tell you the truth, it's partially the reason why I chose to become a journalist, because I really wanted to tell the story. But in the beginning, I didn't think I possessed the essential tools to write a book. You also grow in journalism. You become more experienced. You see the world more. You read other good stuff. And then you reach a point where you say, "Okay, I'm ready for it." But even then, when I started writing the first draft of what became Our Moon Has Blood Clots, I think there were some personal stories where it was extremely difficult to write about them. For example, the death of my brother, who was killed by terrorists, or the illness of my mother, which I speak about, write about in my book. So these were some extremely difficult moments where I absolutely stopped writing. But again, the credit goes to my editor Meru, who kind of understood what I was going through and gave me that space to continue with the project, and I'm thankful that I did.
And throughout this difficult process, how was the New India Foundation able to help you in your book?
I think it came to me at a wonderful stage. I had just started writing it, and then the fellowship came in the form of this huge support. Personally, for me, I was someone who always kind of looked up to Ramachandra Guha's scholarship. And when the book received NIF support, which also meant to me the fact that it also had Ram's support, it personally meant a lot to me. And I think throughout the selection process, even at the time when I was interviewed, I think I was really confident of the fact that Ram is on my side, and he's someone who truly believes in the fact that this story has to be told. I think that gave me immense strength. And I think the popularity of my book, it's also because of the fact that it had the support of someone like Ram. It also had the support of someone like Nandan Nilekani, who spoke about it at various platforms. And I made sure that wherever I speak about the book, I also mention the support of NIF, which was really crucial for this book.
And as a Kashmiri Pandit myself, I know the immense importance that this book has. But how does this work help tell a story about India today?
I think, personally for me, my biggest gratification from this book is when it reaches young people like yourself. I've had in various lit fairs and other public events, parents have come to me, and parents perhaps of your parents' age, right? They've come to me and they said, we knew exactly what has happened to us, and our children asked us questions, but we didn't quite know how to tell them this thing. But when your book came out, the only thing we did is buy this book and give it to them and say, read this book, this is my story. I think personally, that's been the biggest reward for this book as far as I'm concerned.
And what is the most important message that you think you would like for readers to take away from your book?
I think the most important message is that you should always have empathy, because you do not know what the other person is going through. The other important learning, even for me, is that there are many sides to truth. And one should not form his or her opinion based on reading one book or listening from one person. You should have gone through multiple narratives of the same before you kind of form what could be called a cogent opinion about something. That's really important. But even then, as you're forming it, I think there should be enough space for you to accommodate other points of view. One trait which is sadly missing from today's narrative, which is completely dictated by the norms of social media, where people are trying to outdo each other in terms of scoring brownie points over one another.
But thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you, Roy.